The space station called Celestial Crossing was huge. It floated in the darkness between planets where aliens from hundreds of different worlds came to trade and do business. The station had 3 massive floors filled with shops, restaurants, and market stalls. Creatures of every shape and size walked through the corridors. Some had wings, some had scales, and some looked like walking plants. They all spoke in different languages, but everyone wore a small device that translated their words into something others could understand. On the lowest floor of the station, where the air smelled like recycled water and cheap food, a small figure sat against a cold metal wall. Her name was Tala. She was a Silurian, which meant she looked like a person mixed with a squirrel. She stood only 4 feet tall with soft brown fur covering her body. Her most beautiful feature was her large, bushy tail, but now it looked thin and sad. She wrapped it around herself like a blanket. Even though the station was not cold, she was trying to feel safe. Tala held out a small metal cup toward the aliens walking past. Her voice was quiet and tired. "Please, just a few credits," she said. "Anything will help." Most aliens did not even look at her. They walked by as if she was invisible. Some looked at her with disgust in their eyes. A few spat on the ground near her feet. Tala was used to this now. She had been living on the station for 3 months, sleeping in maintenance corridors and eating from trash bins when she could not beg enough money for food. She had not always been this way. 3 months ago, Tala had been traveling on a colony ship with her family and 50 other Shurians. They were going to a new planet where they could build homes and live in peace. But pirates attacked their ship. The pirates took everything valuable and left the passengers stranded. The Galactic Coalition, which was like a government for space, rescued Tala and the other survivors. They brought them to Celestial Crossing and told them to wait while their paperwork was processed, but the paperwork never finished. Tala filled out forms every week, but nobody ever called her name. She was stuck. The station rules said she could not leave, but they also said she could not work. She had no money, no home, and no way to contact her family. She did not even know if they were alive. A group of large aliens approached her spot against the wall. They were Vextron traders, reptile-like creatures with black scales that looked like polished stone. They were each 7 feet tall and very strong. They wore expensive clothes and had rings on their claws that showed they were rich. The leader of the group saw Tala and started laughing. His laugh sounded like rocks being crushed together. "Look at this pathetic thing," he said to his friends. "Still here, still begging." Tala kept her eyes down. She knew these aliens. They came by her spot almost every day to make fun of her. She had learned that if she stayed quiet and did not look at them, they would get bored and leave faster. But today the leader was feeling more cruel than usual. He walked up to Tala and kicked her cup out of her paws. The few credits she had collected went flying across the floor. Most of them fell into the drainage grates where she could never reach them. 1 credit rolled under a food cart 20 feet away. "Disgusting vermin," the Vextron said. "Your whole species is nothing but parasites. You should not even be allowed on this station." Tala scrambled on her hands and knees trying to catch the credits before they all disappeared. Her tail dragged on the dirty floor. She managed to save only 2 small credits. It was not enough to buy even 1 meal. The Vextron and his friends laughed harder as they watched her crawl around. Then they walked away, already forgetting about her. To them, Tala was just entertainment, something to laugh at when they were bored. Tala sat back against the wall. She looked at the 2 credits in her paw. 2 credits would not buy food. It would not buy water. It would not buy anything. She felt tears starting to form in her large amber eyes, but she forced them back. Crying never helped. It only made her feel weaker. The lights on the station started to dim. This meant the artificial night cycle was beginning. Most shops would close soon. The good begging spots would be taken by other desperate people. Tala would have to find somewhere to sleep where security would not chase her away. She was about to stand up when a smell reached her nose. It made her stomach hurt with hunger. The smell was amazing. It was fresh bread, real meat, vegetables, spices. It was the smell of actual food, not the gray nutrient paste that the station gave to poor people. Tala looked up and saw where the smell was coming from. A human was walking through the marketplace. Humans were rare this far from Earth. Most aliens thought humans were strange because they were new to space travel. The Galactic Coalition had only allowed Earth to join 5 years ago, and many older alien races still thought of humans as primitives. This human was a young man, maybe 25 years old. He had dark hair and wore simple work clothes. His jacket had writing on it in human letters. Tala could not read human languages, but she could see a name tag on his chest. It said Tae-sung in both human writing and the common language that everyone in space used. The human sat down on a bench not far from Tala. He pulled out a sandwich wrapped in paper and started eating. Tala's nose was very sensitive because of her Shirian biology. She could smell every ingredient in that sandwich. There was meat, fresh lettuce, tomatoes, and something pickled. There was cheese and some kind of sauce. Her mouth watered. Her stomach made a loud gurgling sound. The noise was loud enough that the human heard it. He looked up from his sandwich and his eyes met Tala's. For a moment, neither of them moved. Tala expected him to look away or make a disgusted face like most people did, but instead the human's expression changed to something else. His eyes became soft. He looked concerned. Tala quickly looked down at the ground. She did not want pity. Pity was almost worse than disgust. But she could still smell that sandwich and her stomach hurt so badly. When was the last time she had eaten real food? 2 days ago? 3? She could not remember anymore. The days all blended together into one long nightmare of hunger and cold and loneliness. Tae-sung had been working on space stations for 8 months now. He was a cargo specialist for the Earth Transport Guild, which meant he loaded and unloaded boxes from spaceships. The work was hard and the pay was not great, but it was honest work. He was saving money to help his younger sister pay for university back on Earth. Every credit he earned, he sent half of it home to his family in Busan. In his 8 months traveling through space, Tae-sung had seen many things that bothered him. He saw how some alien species treated others badly. He saw how the Galactic Coalition had rules that looked fair on paper, but actually helped rich and powerful aliens while hurting poor and weak ones. He saw how species like humans, who were new to space, were treated like children or idiots by older civilizations. But right now, looking at the small squirrel-like girl staring at his sandwich with desperate, hungry eyes, Tae-sung felt something break in his chest. He had seen poverty before. He grew up in a poor neighborhood in Busan where many families struggled. His grandmother used to run a small restaurant and she fed anyone who came to her door, whether they could pay or not. She always said that kindness costs nothing but means everything. Tae-sung looked at his sandwich, then at the girl. He made a decision. "Hey," he called out gently. He spoke in Korean first from habit, then switched to the common language that his translator device would change into words she could understand. "Are you hungry?" The squirrel girl's ears pressed flat against her head. She looked scared. Tae-sung realized she probably thought he was going to make fun of her. He felt angry that someone so small and harmless had been treated so badly that kindness scared her. "I do not have money to pay you," she said in a very quiet voice. Her words were slow and careful, like she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Tae-sung looked at his sandwich again. It was a good sandwich. His friend Minho worked at one of the human food stalls on the station and always made the best sandwiches. This one had beef, lettuce, tomato, pickles, cheese, and a special sauce. His mouth had been watering for it all day, but looking at the girl's thin face and patchy fur, Tae-sung knew she needed it more than he did. He broke the sandwich in half. He walked over to where she sat and knelt down so he would not tower over her. He held out the bigger half of the sandwich. "Here," he said. "You do not need to pay me." The girl stared at the sandwich like it might disappear if she blinked. Her small paws shook as she reached out, then stopped. She looked up at Tae-sung with confusion in her large amber eyes. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you give me food?" Tae-sung smiled. "Because you are hungry and I have enough to share." He said it so simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. The girl took the sandwich with both paws. Her paws were still shaking. The moment she bit into it, tears started running down through her fur. She tried to eat slowly, tried to make the food last, but Tae-sung could see how hungry she was. He sat down on the floor next to her and ate his half of the sandwich. He did not watch her eat because he thought that might make her uncomfortable. Instead, he looked at the passing crowds of aliens walking through the marketplace. After a few minutes of silence, Tae-sung spoke. "My name is Tae-sung. I am from Earth." The girl swallowed her food before answering. "My name is Tala. I am from nowhere now, I think. What happened to you?" Tae-sung asked. "How did you end up here?" Most people never asked Tala questions about herself. Most people did not care. They saw her as a beggar, a problem, something to ignore or kick aside. But this human asked like he really wanted to know. Like her story mattered, so Tala told him everything. She told him about the colony ship and her family. She told him about the pirates and the attack. She told him how the Galactic Coalition rescued the survivors, but then trapped them in bureaucratic paperwork that never ended. She told him about living on the streets of the station for 3 months. She told him about the Vextran traders who tortured her for fun. She told him about station security guards who ignored her when she asked for help, because Surians had no political power in the coalition. Tae-sung listened to everything without interrupting. His face became more and more serious as Tala talked. When she finished her story, he was quiet for a long moment. "That is not right," he finally said. His voice was angry, but Tala could tell the anger was not directed at her. "That is not right at all. Nobody should be treated that way." Tala made a sad sound that was almost a laugh. "That is just how the galaxy works. You are human, so you do not understand yet. Your species is new to space. You have not learned the rules yet. The strong do what they want. The weak suffer. That is just reality." Tae-sung shook his head. "Maybe that is reality now, but it does not have to be reality forever. My grandmother used to tell me something. She said that the way to judge if a civilization is good or bad is not by looking at how it treats powerful people. You judge it by how it treats people who have no power at all." Tala looked at him with wonder in her eyes. "Your civilization sounds very kind." "We have a lot of problems," Tae-sung admitted. "Earth is not perfect. We still have poverty and crime and people who are cruel. But most humans try to be good. We try to help each other when we can." He stood up and brushed dust off his pants. "Wait here for a minute, okay? I will be right back." Before Tala could ask what he meant, Tae-sung walked away toward the food vendor stalls. Tala sat holding the last small piece of sandwich, wondering if she had imagined the whole conversation. Maybe the human would not come back. Maybe he had done his good deed for the day and now he would forget about her like everyone else did. But 10 minutes later, Tae-sung came back. He was carrying a bag that looked heavy. He set it down next to Tala and opened it. Inside were nutrition packs, fresh fruit, a container of soup that was still warm, and several bottles of clean water. "This should be enough food for maybe 5 or 6 days, Tae-sung said. "I know it is not much, but it is something." Tala stared at the bag like it was full of treasure. To her it was. This was more food than she had seen in weeks. She looked up at Tae-sung and more tears started falling from her eyes. "I do not understand," she said. "Why are you being so kind to me? You do not know me. I cannot pay you back. I cannot do anything for you." Tae-sung pulled out a small data pad from his pocket. He typed something on it, then showed it to Tala. "This is my communication code. If those Vextran traders bother you again, or if anyone else gives you trouble, you contact me immediately." "Okay, promise me, but why?" Tala asked again. She could not understand why the stranger cared so much. Tae-sung smiled at her. It was a warm, genuine smile. "Because someone should care. Because you deserve kindness just like everyone else. Because I can help, so I will help. It is that simple." He started to walk away, but Tala called out to him. "Tae-sung, thank you. Really. Thank you so much." He waved at her and disappeared into the crowd of aliens walking through the station. Tala sat there for a long time, looking at the bag of food and the data pad with his contact information. For the first time in 3 months, she felt something other than despair and fear. She felt hope. News traveled fast on Celestial Crossing, especially on the lower floors where poor aliens lived and worked. Within a few days, everyone knew about the human who had shared his food with the Shurian beggar. Most aliens thought it was stupid. Some thought it was funny. A few thought it was interesting. The Vextran traders heard about it too, and they were not happy. To them, Tala was entertainment. She was supposed to be miserable and desperate. That was the natural order of things. Weak species suffered while strong species prospered. But now this human was interfering with that order. Tae-sung came back to see Tala every few days when he was not working cargo runs to other stations. He brought her food and sometimes clothes or blankets. More importantly, he brought her conversation. He treated her like a person, not like garbage. He asked her about Shurian culture and her homeworld. He told her stories about Earth and taught her words in Korean. Tala started to change. She cleaned herself up and groomed her fur. She held her head higher when she walked. She smiled sometimes. The other poor aliens on the lower floors noticed the change in her. Some of them started talking to her, asking her questions about the human who helped her. The Vextron noticed too. They saw that Tala was not as scared anymore, not as broken. It made them angry in a way they could not explain. The leader of the Vextron traders, whose name in the common language meant something like bone crusher, decided that the human and the Shiurian needed to be taught a lesson. One evening, Tala was sitting near the water recycling plant eating some rice that Tae-sung had brought her. It was good rice flavored with vegetables and a little bit of meat. She was eating slowly, enjoying every bite, when she heard heavy footsteps behind her. "Look at this," Bone Crusher's voice rumbled. "The little parasite thinks she is special now. She thinks she is important because a human showed her pity." Tala's heart started beating fast. She tried to stand up and move away, but Bone Crusher was faster. He kicked the container of rice out of her paws. It flew across the floor and hit a wall, spilling rice everywhere. "Know your place, vermin," Bone Crusher said. He had two other Vextron with him, both almost as big as he was. They surrounded Tala, blocking her escape routes, but this time something was different. This time Tala was not alone. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the data pad that Tae-sung had given her. Her paws shook as she pressed the emergency contact button. Bone Crusher saw what she was doing and laughed. It was a cruel, grinding sound. "You are calling your human friend? What is he going to do? Humans are barely better than you. They have no power here. They are new and weak." Tala did not answer. She just held the data pad and waited. She had faith that Tae-sung would come. She did not know why she had that faith, but she did. 10 minutes later, Tae-sung arrived. He was breathing hard from running across 2 decks of the station. He looked at the scene in front of him. He saw the spilled rice. Tala pressed against the wall and the 3 massive Vextron standing over her like predators surrounding prey. "Is there a problem here?" Tae-sung asked. His voice was calm, but Tala could see his hands were clenched into fists. Bone Crusher turned to face the human. The size difference was ridiculous. Bone Crusher was 7 feet tall and probably weighed 400 pounds of muscle and scales. Tae-sung was maybe 5'10" and weighed less than 200 pounds. But Tae-sung did not back down. "No problem, human," Bone Crusher said with amusement in his voice. "I was just reminding this creature of her station in life. This does not concern you. Move along." "She has as much right to be here as anyone," Tae-sung said. He did not move. Bone Crusher's amusement turned to anger. "Rights? She has no rights. Her species has no power, no territory, no voice in the Galactic Coalition. She exists here because we allow it, nothing more. Now leave before you make me angry." Tae-sung looked the Vextron directly in the eyes. "And what is your excuse?" Bone Crusher blinked, confused. "What?" "Your excuse for being cruel to someone smaller and weaker than you, what is it?" "Back on Earth, we have a word for people who hurt those who cannot fight back. We call them cowards." The corridor became very quiet. The other 2 Vextron stopped moving. A few other aliens who had been passing by stopped to watch. Nobody insulted a Vextron trader in public. It was social suicide. The Vextron had money and connections. They could make life very difficult for anyone who angered them. Bone Crusher's scales turned darker with rage. He took a step toward Tae-sung, using his full height to try to intimidate the human. "You dare call me a coward? Your entire species is irrelevant. You are nothing. In 100 years, humans will be forgotten. Just another failed experiment in evolution." Tae-sung stood his ground even though his heart was pounding in his chest. He was scared, but he did not show it. "Maybe you are right. Maybe humans will fail, but at least we do not get our fun from torturing refugees. At least we try to be better than our worst impulses." For a moment, violence hung in the air like a storm about to break. Bone Crusher could kill the human easily. One swing of his massive arm would break bones. Station security would not stop him unless he damaged property. A dead human would just be filed as an unfortunate accident. But Tae-sung did not flinch. He did not look away. He stood between Bone Crusher and Tala, protecting her with his body even though he was completely outmatched. Bone Crusher stared at the human for a long moment. Then he made a disgusted sound and turned away. "You are not worth the paperwork," he said. "But remember this, human. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Accidents happen all the time, especially to people who forget their place in the natural order." The 3 Vextron walked away, their footsteps echoing down the corridor. When they were gone, Tala rushed to Tae-sung. She grabbed his arm with both of her small paws. "You should not have done that," she said. Her voice was shaking. "They could have killed you. They still might kill you. Why did you take that risk for someone like me?" Taesung knelt down so he was at eye level with Tala. Someone like you? Tala, you are smart and kind. You have survived things that would destroy most people. You deserve to be treated with respect. Why would I not stand up for you? Tala felt something crack inside her chest. It was the shell of worthlessness that 3 months of abuse had built around her heart. Tears started running down through her fur. These were different tears than before. These were tears of relief and gratitude and something else she could not name. Taesung did not tell her to stop crying. He did not try to make her feel embarrassed about her emotions. He just sat down next to her on the dirty floor and waited until she was ready to speak again. After a few minutes, Tala wiped her eyes with her paws. What if they come back? What if they hurt you? Taesung thought about that. Then they come back. But I will not stop helping you. I will not let fear of bullies dictate how I act. That is very brave, Tala said quietly. Or very stupid. I am not sure which, Taesung laughed. My grandmother used to say that bravery and stupidity often look the same from the outside. The difference is whether you succeed or fail. They sat together for a while longer, neither of them speaking. Around them, the station continued its endless cycle of business and life. But in that small corner near the water recyclers, 2 beings from very different worlds had found something rare in the vast emptiness of space. They had found friendship. The confrontation between Taesung and the Vextron traders had consequences that nobody expected. Within a week, 3 other stranded aliens approached Tala in the lower decks. There was an old Felorian whose home planet had been destroyed by a dying star. There was a young Crevan whose request for asylum had been rejected 3 times. There was also a family of Dulaxians whose transport documents had mysteriously disappeared in the bureaucratic system. The old Felorian spoke first. His voice wheezed because his species breathed different air than most other aliens. We heard about what happened, he said to Tala. We heard that a human helped you, that a human stood up to Vextron traders for you. Tala nodded carefully. She was not sure what they wanted. Could you ask him if he has more food to spare? The Felorian continued. We do not want charity. We can work. We want to work. But nobody will hire us. Nobody will give us a chance. The young Crevan stepped forward. I was an engineer on my world. I can fix almost anything. But here I am nothing. I sleep in maintenance tunnels and eat garbage. Is that what civilization means in the Galactic Coalition? When Tala told Taesung about these other refugees during his next visit, he sat quietly for a long time thinking. Then he pulled out his data pad and made a call. Hyunwoo. Yes, it is me. Listen, I need to ask you for a favor. Hyunwoo was Taesung's supervisor at the Earth Transport Guild. He was an older human, maybe 50 years old, who had been working in space since Earth first joined the Galactic Coalition. He was tough and practical and did not like to waste time on sentiment. But he also had a good heart, even if he pretended not to. Taesung explained the situation with the refugees. When he finished, there was silence on the other end of the call. Finally, Hyunwoo spoke. You want me to hire unregistered refugees to do off-the-books labor? That violates about 15 different regulations. They need help, Taesung said. And we need people to help sort cargo in the warehouse. It seems like a simple solution to me. Hyunwoo sighed deeply. You remind me too much of your grandmother, kid. She was always doing things like this. Fine, I will hire them. But if this causes problems, it is your responsibility. Understood? Understood. Thank you, Hyunwoo. 2 days later, Tala and 5 other stranded refugees were working in the Earth Transport Guild warehouse. They sorted cargo boxes, cleaned equipment, and did inventory checks. The pay was not great, but it was honest work with fair wages. More importantly, it gave them dignity. It gave them purpose. For the first time in months, Tala woke up each morning with a reason to get out of bed. She had work to do. She had friends to talk to. She had hope for the future. But Bone Crusher heard about this development and he was very unhappy. Humans were supposed to be insignificant. They were supposed to understand their place in the galactic hierarchy. They were not supposed to upset the established order by helping refugees that the system had already deemed unworthy. Bone Crusher filed a formal complaint with the station administration. He claimed that the Earth Transport Guild was violating labor regulations and creating safety hazards. An inspector was sent to investigate. The inspector was a young human woman named Yul Hee. She worked for the Coalition Compliance Bureau, which meant her job was to make sure everyone followed the rules. She arrived at the warehouse 3 days after the complaint was filed. Hyunwoo and Taesung waited nervously while Yul-hee examined every detail of their operation. She checked worker documentation. She reviewed cargo manifests. She inspected safety equipment. She asked questions about wages and working conditions. The inspection took 3 hours. Finally, Yul-hee closed her data pad. Her face showed no emotion. "Everything appears to be in order," she said carefully. Taesung blinked in surprise. "It is." "Yes," Yul-hee said. "I found that you have issued temporary work permits under Humanitarian Exception Clause 47B. All wages are properly documented. Working conditions meet minimum safety standards. I see no violations." After she left, Hyunwoo started laughing. "Do you know what that clever woman just did? Clause 47B is extremely obscure. Most species do not even know it exists. But technically, any coalition-recognized entity can issue emergency work permits for refugees if they provide proper housing and fair wages. And the Earth Transport Guild was officially recognized as a coalition entity just last month." Taesung smiled. "So we are completely legal?" "Completely legal," Hyunwoo confirmed. "That inspector just gave us the loophole we needed. And she probably annoyed every bureaucrat on this station in the process. But Bone Crusher was not finished. If legal methods would not work, he would use other approaches." 2 nights later, a fire broke out in the warehouse. The automated fire suppression systems contained it before major damage occurred, but the message was clear. It was a warning. Taesung found a data chip left near the warehouse entrance the next morning. When he played it, Bone Crusher's voice came through loud and threatening. "Stop interfering with the natural order, human. Or next time we will not miss." Tala overheard the message. She grabbed Taesung's arm with both paws, her voice desperate. "Please, just stop, let it go. It is not worth your life." "I am not worth your life." "Do not say that." Taesung interrupted her gently but firmly. "Do not ever say that. You are worth it. All of you are worth it." He looked around the warehouse at all the refugees who were working there. They had stopped what they were doing and were listening to the conversation. "We are not going to stop just because someone tries to scare us." The old Felorian stepped forward. "But what can we do? The Vextran have power and money. They have connections in the station government. We have nothing." Taesung was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "We do what humans do best. We get stubborn. We do not give up just because things are difficult." "That does not sound like a very good plan," the young Creven said. "Maybe not," Taesung admitted, "but it is the plan we have. And sometimes stubbornness is enough." Over the next few days, Taesung prepared his response to Bone Crusher's threats, but his approach surprised everyone, including Tala. He did not hire security guards. He did not file counter-complaints with station administration. He did not try to fight the Vextran using their own methods. Instead, he went public with the story. He contacted every human news outlet he could find in the sector. He also reached out to several independent journalists from other species who were known for covering social issues. He gave interviews about the refugees on Celestial Crossing. He talked about the systemic neglect they faced. He talked about the bullying and exploitation, but most importantly, he told stories. He told Tala's story about losing her family and surviving on the streets. He told the Felorian's story about watching his world die. He told the Creven's story about having skills and education but being treated as worthless. He made the refugees real to people. He gave them names and faces and histories. He made it impossible for people to ignore them or dismiss them as statistics. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Humans, it turned out, loved underdog stories. They loved stories about people overcoming impossible odds. Within days, donations started pouring in from human colonies across the sector. Other human merchant guilds offered to create similar work programs. A human lawyer arrived offering to help with asylum cases for free. The Galactic Coalition bureaucracy suddenly found itself answering uncomfortable questions from dozens of human advocacy groups. Why did asylum processing take so long? Why were refugees not protected from abuse? Why were there no work programs for stranded aliens? Bone Crusher watched all of this unfold with growing rage. The human had turned a simple matter into a publicity crisis. But even Bone Crusher could not openly move against someone who had this much public attention on them. The galaxy was watching now. And the galaxy was starting to ask questions. 3 months after Taesung first shared his sandwich with Tala, the situation on Celestial Crossing had changed dramatically. What started as one human helping one refugee had become something much bigger. The publicity that Taesung generated had created ripples that spread across the galaxy. Other species started paying attention to their own stations and their own forgotten populations. A Dulaxian merchant on a station 3 sectors away opened a work program similar to what the Earth Transport Guild had created. A Crevan administrator who had been ignoring asylum claims for years suddenly started processing them. Small acts of kindness began appearing in places where cruelty had been normal before. Bone Crusher and his fellow Vextron traders found themselves in an uncomfortable position. They were being investigated for labor violations. Their business practices were being scrutinized by coalition auditors. Several of their most profitable contracts had been canceled by clients who did not want to be associated with the negative publicity. The natural order they believed in was being challenged, and they did not like it. But they were smart enough to know that they could not openly attack Taesung anymore. The human had too much attention on him now. Anything that happened to him would be immediately investigated. So instead, the Vextron quietly withdrew from the lower decks of the station. They stopped their regular visits to torment the refugees. They pretended that they had never cared about such trivial matters in the first place. Tala's life had transformed completely. Her asylum paperwork, which had been stuck in bureaucratic limbo for months, was suddenly processed and approved in less than 2 weeks. She received full refugee status, a work permit, and a path toward coalition citizenship if she chose to pursue it. She stood with Taesung at the observation deck one evening, watching spaceships come and go from the docking ports. The view was beautiful. Stars stretched out in every direction, infinite and eternal. "I still do not understand how all of this happened," Tala said quietly. "One moment I was begging for scraps. Now I have a job, a home, a future. How did everything change so fast?" Taesung leaned against the observation window. "Humans have a word for it. We call it momentum. You start something small, something right. And if you are stubborn enough and if you do not give up, eventually it becomes too big to ignore. It builds on itself." "But you started it," Tala insisted. "You shared your sandwich with a stranger. You stood up to bullies who could have killed you. You risked everything for people who could give you nothing in return." Taesung shook his head. "I just shared some food with someone who was hungry. That is not heroic. That is just being a decent person. You did the hard part. You survived. You kept going even when everything was terrible. You became someone worth fighting for. What happens now?" Tala asked. She was still getting used to the idea that she had a future to plan for. "Now you live," Taesung said simply. "Really live. Not just survive, but actually build something. Make friends. Learn new things. Help other people the way you were helped. Pass the kindness forward." A chime sounded on Taesung's communication device. He checked it and smiled. "Another cargo run. I need to ship some supplies to a station in the Outer Rim. I will be gone for about 2 weeks. Tala felt a moment of panic. What if something bad happened while he was gone? What if the Vextron came back? But then she remembered that she was not alone anymore. She had friends now. She had co-workers. She had a support system. "Be safe," she said to Taesung. "Always am," he replied with a grin. As he started to walk away, Tala called out to him one more time. "Taesung, thank you. For everything. For seeing me when everyone else looked away." Taesung turned back and gave her a warm smile. "That is the thing about humans. We are terrible at ignoring people who need help. Other species call it a weakness. They say we are too emotional, too impulsive, too willing to help even when it is not logical or profitable. But I think maybe it is actually our greatest strength." After he left, Tala stood at the observation deck for a long time, thinking about what he had said. She thought about the galaxy and how it worked. She thought about the cruel natural order that the Vextron believed in, where the strong dominated the weak and kindness was seen as weakness. But she also thought about Taesung and his grandmother, and the human civilization that valued helping others. She thought about how one simple act of sharing food had changed her entire life. She thought about momentum and stubborn kindness and the power of refusing to accept cruelty as normal. She made a decision then. She would save her wages. She would learn how the bureaucratic systems worked. She would find others like she had been, refugees who were invisible and desperate and forgotten, and she would help them, one person at a time, just like Taesung had helped her. 6 months later, Inspector Yulhi filed a routine report about Celestial Crossing. She noted a significant decrease in refugee-related complaints. She noted the emergence of several informal support networks, mostly organized by former refugees who had been successfully integrated into the workforce. She also noted, with what might have been approval in her carefully neutral tone, that Bone Crusher's trading company had been subjected to multiple audits for labor violations and was currently under investigation by coalition authorities. The report ended with an observation written in her precise handwriting. Human methodology appears chaotic and inefficient by coalition standards, but produces unexpected positive outcomes. Recommend further study. At the very bottom of the report, someone had added a handwritten note. Or maybe we should just try being kind. It seems to work for them. Back on Earth, in a small apartment in the city of Busan, an old woman read a letter from her grandson. He wrote about his adventures in space, about the people he had met, about the difference that small acts of kindness could make. The old woman smiled as she read. She had always known that her grandson had a good heart. She carefully folded the letter and added it to a box where she kept all his correspondence. Then she put on her coat and went outside to feed the neighborhood cats. After that, she would make extra food for dinner because she knew some of the university students in the building were struggling with money. Kindness, after all, required no translation. It was a universal language that every species could understand if they chose to listen. On Celestial Crossing, Tala finished her shift at the warehouse and headed to the lower decks. She was carrying a bag of food and some supplies. She had heard about a group of newly arrived refugees who were sleeping near the waste recyclers. They needed help. As she walked through the corridors, her tail swaying behind her, Tala thought about how different her life was now compared to 3 months ago. She had gone from being invisible to being someone who mattered. She had gone from begging for scraps to being able to help others, and it had all started because one human decided to share his sandwich. Tala smiled to herself. Maybe the galaxy was not as cruel as she had thought. Maybe with enough stubborn kindness things could actually change. Maybe the natural order was not as natural or as permanent as the powerful wanted everyone to believe. She found the refugees huddled in a corner, just as she had been months ago. They looked scared and hungry and hopeless. Tala knelt down to their level and held out the bag of food. "Are you hungry?" she asked gently. And somewhere in the infinite darkness of space, across thousands of light years and millions of stars, the momentum continued to build, one act of kindness at a time, one shared meal at a time, one stubborn human at a time. The galaxy was vast and often cruel, but it was also full of possibility, and sometimes, just sometimes, the smallest gesture could change everything.